All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of the Blindside Blitz. I am Jim McFee, and right there is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Blitz Nation? Welcome back. You know what time it is. Time to talk some football, but we got a very special guest on with us, and we're going to be hitting you up with some fantasy knowledge. But if you haven't done so already, tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure you head over to Grumblings Media on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button for us. Also, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. We're trying to get 100 likes in this video. Want you guys to be a part of this thing. Let's get to it.
All right, absolutely. Yes, that's right, Joe. And not only football time, but, it's fantasy time, right? We wait until this part of August, right to the end when everybody should be doing their drafts right now. I don't know why people do it so early sometimes, but I see the trend. Yes. Everybody's finally pulled on to this whole thing, and now we're doing it towards the end here. And we bring our fantasy expert, Mr. Iggy Gilbert, co-founder of the Sports Affiliation. Iggy, pleasure to have you on board with us again, buddy.
Hey, Jimmy, Joe, glad to be back. That intro video always gets me pumped. Makes me feel like we can still go out there and crack some backs, but that's
all right. All right, looks like we lost Iggy or something like that. It's a little interruption here for some reason. All right, but we'll keep it going. But yeah, Joe, fantasy time. Did you do any of your drafts yet?
So I did one already. It was pretty standard. It was full PPR. But it was pretty standard, and it was awfully weird though, because for the league that I was in, it kind of went heavy running backs first, and it's a full PPR. So like, there's a whole new thinking now of strategies and whatnot, and what to do, what not to do. Everybody's got a differing opinion on it. So that's why we got our boy Iggy. When we get him back, that we're definitely going to answer him some questions. But I understand, Jimmy, you were kind of enlightened with a situation that transpired. I haven't heard the story yet, but would like to hear that story whenever.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're having technical issues. I don't know what's going on here, but we got Iggy back. Iggy's here.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
What's going on?
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you.
All right, Jimmy, Joe. Yeah, thanks, man, for having me. And like I said, that intro video gets me going every time. So I'm pumped to be here. And yeah, we've got we're under 10 days to football's here. So
that's right.
For the NFL, and glad to talk fantasy football with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny too, because I was just invited to a birthday party this last Friday, right? Quick story, but this is fantasy related. Let me tell you.
He swears.
So, it's one of those parties where we had to go to a back room for a party, but then I needed to use the bathroom, so I had to go to the bar area anyways, plus get a few drinks. So walking through, and these guys are doing a fantasy draft, so I got to walk by and kind of look quick or whatever. So on my way back through, I'm looking and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, dude, somebody in the first round, the 5th overall picked, drafted Trevor Lawrence.
No.
And then even after, not as surprising, Jalen Hurts, and then Jaden Daniels. But Trevor Lawrence, wow, just blew my mind. And I was like, what? Are you serious? So I had to go back to the party. I'm like, you guys got to see this list out there. Somebody just drafted Trevor Lawrence in the first round. Oh my gosh. And they're like, hold on, let me go look. So they look, right? And they're like, oh man, yeah, that you can't say anything to that guy though. He just had a stroke. I'm like, I just had a stroke. I'm like, I'm sorry. And they're like, no, you can't say that. I'm like, I'm sorry. But I just can't believe that this happened. Wow. And so one, the reaction, but then two, they told me after talking to them that they select their roster first, their starters, bang, 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 and then the next selections have to be your bench. So the first picks have to be your starters, but then your bench. But do you agree that you should go so many people went quarterback first? So I don't agree with that, but Trevor Lawrence blew my mind.
Oh, yeah. In fact, in the draft last night, I was I took the quarterback in the 20th round. I was the last one to take one. I got Drake May. I think it's a deep quarterback class. If first round, there's just so much good running backs and wide receivers there that you got to at least take an attempt at. I think second round, I have no issues with it. You want to get one of the two best quarterbacks, go for it. But the first round, Trevor Lawrence, almost was going to say, was like, is that a punishment? Like, you come in last place, we get to pick your first pick for you? Or
yeah, I know, right? I'm like, that's what I mean. Is somebody picking for this guy or something like that? And then I found out, I'm like, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
But, so I was blown away.
Right. I mean,
blown away. That was the talk of the party kind of for a little while.
I don't even know how to respond. I mean, now I'm all shook up. I'm like, how do you take Trevor Lawrence that early? Even if you have to take your starters first, the value is so much greater in running backs and receivers there. It's like
I had to do a double take that they weren't doing like IDP and like, you know, picking like it was Dexter Lawrence or something. I was like, but still, even Dexter Lawrence first overall. Like,
that'd be a little stretch too.
You know, so I know exactly. So
well, now that Jimmy had that wonderful story to tell us for fantasy, that's what you don't do with the 5th pick. Everybody, do not take Trevor Lawrence. Iggy, this brings me to a question that kind of has been stemming on my mind going into some of these drafts, whether you're amateur, intermediate, pro, whatever. I want to pick your ear on this one here and get some knowledge, because everybody seems to have a different strategy going into this year. There's some new trends that are starting to perk up. I heard of this hero trend that people really rely on their number one pick, like their go-to guy, like CeeDee Lamb, for example. Like you'll pick him and then fill around him afterwards. In your opinion, Iggy, like what is the better strategy going into this year?
You know, it always comes back to your league. If you're in a 3 wide receiver league, you know, maybe look at a wide receiver. I tend to go with a good running back. I guess I do somewhat of a hero. I will grab another running back, usually in the 4th or 5th round. But
okay.
I love Bijan. If I can get him, I get him basically everywhere I can. I only have one Jamar Chase in best ball, but I think the strategy has to be, you know, if it's a PPR, look at the wide receivers. There's some really great wide receivers: Nico Collins, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. Well, not AJ Brown. CeeDee Lamb. You know, there's a couple of Justin JJ Jefferson.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of wide receivers that have volume in that first round that can get you 100 receptions, get you 10 touchdowns, and they have spike weeks that can get you those crucial weeks where they do go off. So that's my suggestion to people, you know. But as always, know your league. If you've got a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver kind of league, and it's a 14-team league, you better grab a running back, because there's only going to, you know, 28 every week, and RB 28's not great. So
right.
Know your league settings, but I would lean wide receiver unless there's some kind of different altercation with that.
Yeah, like if it's not a full PPR league, if it's more like a half PPR or standard, even standard, definitely like kind of maybe go with like running backs is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, and I prefer half point PPR. Like the leagues that converge is what they are, so that's probably why I tilt heavily on John and so forth. Excellent.
Other interesting thing too is, you know, IDPs is becoming more and more popular in all circles, like amateur, even they're starting to get into it. But for IDPs, like, is there any suggestions on like like per position, like, you know, D-line, linebacker, safety? What in your opinion is probably the first position group that you would want to target in an IDP only draft?
Man, once again, it goes to the scoring, but there's so many linebackers, whereas the cliff, like the great linebackers are going to separate themselves from the rest of the pack, and you want to for sure tackle it. IDP leagues revolve around tackling. Tackling is to IDPs what yards are to offensive players in regular leagues. So you're going to have one of those guys, but like the Max Crosbys, the TJ Watts, the Trey Hendricksons, you know, the Myles Garrett, like these, there's only a few of those guys that can go out, get tackles, and get sacks. And like I always like to remind people, if one player recorded 2 sacks a game, they would crush the sack record by 11.5. So that's how difficult and how rare sacks are. Interceptions even more so. Save the DBs for the back end. Unless you can play Travis Hunter. You can play Travis Hunter as a DB. Go get him immediately because he's going to get passes. But otherwise, I'd like to target linebacker or a sack specialist to right off the bat.
Excellent. Well, Iggy, I got a fun segment for you in mind. I'm going to name off 10 players, and I want you to let the audience know whether you think they're a boom this year, or maybe they might even be a bust this year, and your reason why.
Alrighty.
Let's go with wide receiver from the Broncos, Courtland Sutton.
Oh man, he's a big time boom guy. He's one of, we'll talk about more of him later, but I just think he's going to go off on that offense. Sean Payton, Bo Nix, second year. They've got a pretty good running back tandem, something they didn't have last year. And by most consensus, they have a top 3 offensive line. I got them as a number 2 offensive line. So we'll see how it all pans out. But the sky's the limit. Great defense. There's just so many great parts that have came together for that Broncos organization that missed the playoffs the past 10 years, and Sutton was there for that. So Sutton is a boom for me.
Excellent. Let's go to the desert here. Quarterback Kyler Murray for the Cardinals.
Shoot, is it possible to say both? I mean, I think I think he'll have spike weeks, and I think he'll have really terrible weeks. Yeah. So I guess that would technically make him a bust. His draft stock's actually not too high. I feel like it's dropped a couple rounds compared to where it's been in the past. So, I still have to rank him a bust, even with the weapons he has around him. They're going to give the ball to James Conner, especially near the goal line. It's just that eats away the volume.
Exactly. Used to be the all-time favorite tight end in Kansas City, Travis Kelce.
Man, I got him booming, actually. One of my stacks I have this year is Kelce and Andrews, because you can get those two guys at like tight end 7 and 8, tight end 8 and 9. And they're still great. I still think Kelce had over 90 receptions last year. He just got engaged today. I feel like he's one of those guys, like tight end's a position where a player can still be, effective, even though they're not playing all the snaps. His snap count may go down, but, wide receivers are falling off left and right, suspensions, not doing well. Hollywood Brown, questionable again. So I think Kelce's going to be a dependable target. I like him for a boom.
Excellent. And you already named him for my next one is Mark Andrews. So we already know what you feel about him. He's going to be a boom though, huh?
Yeah, I think, can you imagine just letting that pass stew with you all summer and he received for it? I think, revenge is a dish best served cold. And I think Andrews has an opportunity we're talking 10, 11, 12 touchdowns. As much as I love Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, those are basically the 3 options in that order around the goal line. So I think Andrews is due for a big year. I think they're going to utilize him, and he's going to bust out after that, one pack game.
Yeah. And let's go to New York, because this is a question that I feel like a lot of fantasy owners are intrigued by. Both there's pros and cons, but what do you feel about Justin Fields?
Man, yeah, I think he's the ultimate. When I made my list of players, he's the ultimate boom or bust player. And, I'm worried about him playing 16, 17 games, to be honest. So I got to put him as a bust. I think he's going to have fantastic weeks. And if you have him in a best ball format, I think he's a great quarterback for that, because you'll just take those however many spike weeks you get. But I think I'm going to have to label him a bust. Garrett Wilson, and then not much else over there. They're kind of confused at running back, rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator. So I think that just kind of spells disaster for him.
Excellent. Let's go down to the dirty South with New Orleans Saints and Alvin Kamara.
Man, yeah, he's on my boom or bust list too. He's going to be so involved. I think it's impossible to label him a bust. But I'm not sure he's going to boom. So he's kind of like right there in the middle. He's going to have good weeks. But, I think his volume is going to save him, because let's say he averages 4 or 5 catches from Spencer Rattler a game. Well, he's already at 4 points. Let's call it 5 points, 6 points with the yardage, in addition to everything else he's going to do. So he's honestly the one guy I'm going to have to say, I don't think he's going to be a boom. I don't think he's going to be a bust just because his volume is going to save him.
Gotcha. Chi-Town. Let's go with DeAndre Swift. I know for me, I'm having a hard time kind of, putting the sights on him and kind of really deciding where I should take him in what round. But DeAndre Swift, do you think he's a boom or a bust?
Yeah, I think he's a big time boom. Reuniting with Ben Johnson. I didn't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but his most receptions in a season, as well as his most scrimmage yards, came with Ben Johnson while he was in Detroit. I've never really been a big Swift fan until now. And then Johnson's banged up, kind of his only backup. I don't know if they're going to try to bring a veteran in. But I think that, look how well Gibbs and Montgomery were in Detroit. I don't know. Swift is going to have an excellent year. There's no competition. Could have high volume touches. he's actually a big time boom for me.
Thanks. Makes sense. I'm in Jacksonville, BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. A lot of people have kind of like pushed him way up on the board after one successful season as a rookie. Where do you think he's going to lie?
Yeah, I think that's a bust. I don't think he's going to live. He's being drafted at his absolute ceiling with 10 new wide receivers, with a new head coach, with a patched up offensive line. I wish him well, and he might finish a solid like wide receiver 2, back in wide receiver 1, but he's being drafted as like a top 4 wide receiver, top 5 wide receiver, and he is one person I'm staying away from in the first round.
Yeah, I have to admit, this is a guy that I had a big question mark on going into, regardless of what his average draft position is. And my draft that I just did, I crossed him completely off my list. I just don't have confidence in him to repeat what he did last year, or even, ascend and do better than that. So I agree with you, Iggy. Go back to the Jets here for me in the backfield, which it's kind of weird. They're labeling it as like a running back by committee approach, but with Breece Hall there, now he's finally healthy again. Where do you think he's going to finish?
I have a lot of shares of him. I am getting a little concerned with Allen. Some of these videos we see out of practice and training camp and so forth. But I still think I still believe Breece Hall is going to be a boom player because he's in a contract year. Nothing motivates like money.
Oh yeah,
and then we've seen it, man. He can catch 75, 80 passes out of the backfield if he is successful in whatever kind of offensive scheme they're going to run there in the Wildcat. He could have big plays. We've seen that from him as well. I'm expecting a big year from Breece Hall. But we'll have to see how coaching decides.
Right. And let's go down south to Miami, where the enigma that is Tyreek Hill.
Whew, man, I early on I was drafting him. Now I'm nervous. I don't know what to think of this oblique injury. We've seen, wide receivers kind of become injured and stay injured later in their career. He said he's going to start putting all his effort into learning the playbook. I mean, it's his 3rd season with this playbook. So I don't know. There's a lot of mixed signals there. I'm staying away from Hill. I'm saying that there's way more chance of him being a bust than a boom.
I agree. And that is the 10 players that I picked out for you. Iggy, you passed the test. You're amazing. And it just brings us to the more fun part of the show is now I would like for you to give us your 5 must draft players, regardless of what round you have them going in or around where they go. But give us your 5 must draft players this year.
Okay. I have, let's see, Bo Nix. I think he's going to be amazing. He had over 400 rushing yards last year. He's still going as QB6, sometimes QB7, depending on the format. I just absolutely think he's going to have an excellent year with the offense and everything around him. To pair him, I got Courtland Sutton. They're 2 of my most owned players, actually. I have them whenever I compare them in standard leagues, redraft leagues, dynasty leagues. I tried to get that combination. And then I have Nick Chubb, believe it or not. I've just been all over him all this summer. I'm still drafting him at amazing value because guess what? You get to hold on to him for those 4 or 5 weeks. He's going to be the starter. And then you can trade him off to somebody that loses a running back, and you can get great value back on him. It's almost guaranteed to happen. I think in that offense, they're going to try to control the game and play great defense. That's how D'Amico Ryan's a former linebacker wants to play football.
I like the way you're thinking, Iggy.
Yeah. And I think Chubb's going to be great for that. And then DeAndre Swift, we already kind of talked about him. And then Mark Andrews, I'll try to grab him in as many leagues as I can as well, just because of his depth. And then real quick, 3 IDPs. Caden Ellis, linebacker for Atlanta. He can sack, he can intercept, he can tackle. Excellent. Max Crosby, I think he's going to be comeback player of the year candidate. And then Travis Hunter. If you play in a league where you get dual eligibility for wide receiver and defensive back, get Travis Hunter as quick as you can because he's going to catch passes. He was the best wide receiver in the game. He won the Biletnikoff Award. He won the Chuck Burkhardt Award and the Heisman Trophy. He's the best player. We haven't seen a player like this in essentially 60, 70 years. So go get Travis Hunter if you have dual eligibility.
It's great insight from Iggy, everybody. Listen, if you want to win your fantasy drafts and you want to win the big championship, tune into our man Iggy. He knows it all. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a long time, very experienced, and we always go to him for all our fantasy advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Iggy, again, you're a professional, bettor and gambler now too. A lot of people don't know that either. We talk fantasy all the time though too. What's your advice for somebody that's even trying to maybe get into that now that sports betting is more? Everybody's bringing it all in. The NFL's all on board and everything.
Yeah.
For somebody looking to kind of dabble in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It always starts with setting a bankroll with me. Set aside some money that you can play with. Have the goal of doubling it, and then you can free ride. So. People determine however much you can lose. I don't know if you can say it that way. Set aside a certain amount, set your unit, which is like what you bet with. And then a lot of people, I'll say this, it's unconventional. I say bet on your team, because if you're a true sports fan of a team, you probably know that team better than 99% of the other people out there, or at least 90%, and then so you have inside info already. Like, I know this player's coming in this week to play, because that player's hurt. The bookies may not take that into consideration. So, and leave the emotion at home. You're bet, like a professional bettor is at 55%. If somebody hits that rate, they're doing outstanding, 55%. So you're going to lose. Expect it.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's great advice again, because a lot of people just get into it, then it's over the head right away. Coming into the season now, we've always heard a lot of different talks about, value of, strength of schedule and all this stuff and things like that with these teams. What's your team that you're looking at now that potentially could be, a real contender here, that could be a safe bet for people, that you really like coming into the season?
And for a Super Bowl champion, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
I forgot what Denver's odds were, 1,200. I think there's some, that if you're looking for a risk one, I think Baltimore has all the pieces though. If they just stay healthy, they're going to have a high-powered offense. They're going to have a capable pass rush defense, great secondary. I think they're built for it. The AFC is just such a battle once you get to those playoffs. But if you're looking for that, I think Baltimore Ravens might have the bet that, the Bengals have no defense. Cleveland has no quarterback plus other issues. Pittsburgh is old, one of the oldest teams in the league. So I think there's a clear path for them to win the AFC North, maybe get the number 1 seed, and coast their way to the Super Bowl.
Now that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged, what's the over under? They make it 5 years. Oh man, I think we broke him down. That was it. That was the question that broke him.
Froze him.
So he's all frozen. So he doesn't know what to say. He's like, I can't believe just asked that question. He's like, you took it one question too far. I did it. I broke it. So that's what it is. So there he is, Iggy Gilbert. Again, if you can rejoin with us, that'd be great too. Because again, we want to promote some great stuff that he's doing here.
That's right.
Part of the sports affiliation. So it's great talking to him, talking fantasy football and sports betting too on top of it.
We basically got into a little bit of everything. We got into IDPs for some of the people out there that are either are still waiting to do their IDP drafts or whatnot. So you got a little bit of knowledge from that. We got strategy kind of taken out of the way there, and then also kind of nailed down some questionable players that Iggy gave you his opinion on what he thinks they're going to end up doing, and not so much the majority is thinking. So I was kind of surprised, I will say, his opinion on Travis Kelce. To me, I'm kind of surprised that I think he thinks he's going to be a boom. Could happen. Same thing with Mark Andrews. That was another big question of mine for fantasy. And then when you get into guys like Alvin Kamara, Brian Thomas Jr., Breece Hall, Tyreek Hill, that avenue right there, that it's a little bit of murky water right now, and there's no real clarity. But Iggy came on to our show, gave us some clarity with all those players, and now you guys out there can be more prepared going into your drafts, whether you're having them this weekend, where you're having them literally right before kickoff, like the day before. I've seen some drafts that do it literally like the night before kickoff happens, just to kind of get your last ditch, reports, any injuries that might happen or occur, any trades. My God, Jim, trades this week were running rampant.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't like big trades. It was like any kind of trade, like a backup tackle getting traded over to this team, and then this team's trading for a guard, and they're backup guards, but they're trading them because they need depth. And Everybody should know out there like that's a big key to a winning football team is you got to have depth, and teams know it now. Like we've seen, even backup quarterbacks were getting traded.
Backup quarterbacks getting traded a lot. You know, and it's just crazy to see the flip flopping that's going on.
Hey, you got to be prepared, right? And teams want to be prepared before we get to the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, quick. I made this real quick though for everybody. Let's see if I can get to it here. But it's a QR code again. KawasakiKidsFoundation.org. If you guys can donate to for that, that's Iggy's thing that he's partnered with right now. So if you guys can help donate to that too, that'd be great. To help, and he's doing like a fantasy giveaway and stuff like that.
Why not?
Absolutely,
it's a good cause.
Yeah, when you partner with Kawasaki too, I mean, dirt bikes and stuff. I mean, that sounds like a hell of a lot of fun.
Pretty cool, right there.
So, yeah, definitely, Joe. So you're talking about you getting trades, right?
Yeah.
The Eagles very active with trades this whole off season, right? With even backup quarterbacks.
Yep.
They made the trade to get rid of Kenny Pickett, and now Kenny Pickett is even traded away again now to your Raiders, right? But then, and they get DTR in that whole business, right? They just released DTR, but now they just, traded with
Sam Howell.
To get Sam Howell now.
Yeah.
And then now with Minnesota Vikings, they pick up Carson Wentz now for their backup situation, which I still think for Minnesota, I think that's a better situation than they were in before, right? Because when we looked at their quarterback depth before, it was JJ McCarthy,
because they
Sam
had
Howell, and then again Brett Rippon, and
you got Sam Darnold when he was there, and you had JJ who unfortunately got hurt. It kind of derailed a little bit of things there, but now that JJ is now the absolute definite starter taking over the reins, they didn't have anybody behind him. I should say this, nobody that they could fully trust in. And I still think that they don't have that. Carson Wentz, we've seen him numerous times, him come in as a backup, and when he does, or when he has to go out there and play, he falls flat on his face. He doesn't execute. He's not the quarterback that he once was, and it was only a short window. It was a very small window that Carson Wentz actually played well enough to win with the Eagles and whatnot. So backup quarterback, your starter goes down, your season's pretty much screwed anyway, even if you have a decent backup. But if you have a decent backup and a decent defense, which Minnesota has, then that can kind of get you by some games, give the backup quarterback enough plays, get the ball back for them to where they have more opportunity to score more points and then still win the game. So that's what you saw this offseason more than ever. I think this is the first offseason where we've seen so many minor trades happen all within a week's time.
Yeah.
And whether it be offensive line depth, quarterbacks, even look at the free agent wires now starting to get picked on. Like Amari Cooper just signed a new deal. What's funny is that he signed a new deal to go back to the team that drafted him with the Raiders. So it'll be intriguing for a guy who's 32 years old and still kind of like wants to prove that he can still play at this level. It'll be interesting to see, can he overcome the age factor that is with your body? So that's another intriguing thing. So a lot of movement. Signings are going to be happening. Today was cut down day, everyone. If you don't know, now you know that today was where you had to be mandatory by 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You had to be down to 53-man roster. You had to submit all your cuts and get down to that lucky number 53. All teams complied. They all did that. But there also was some surprising cuts, and it varied from all different spectrums. Like you had former starters getting cut. You had young guys that just got drafted in this past draft, mind you. Zy Alexander comes to mind. He's a corner from LSU who was on the Buffalo Bills and then didn't make the team. And who knows, maybe they're going to re-sign him back or try to bring him back to the practice squad if he clears and all that. But man, I mean, a guy who you would think being picked in the kind of like middle rounds, you thought that he might make the team. He has enough talent, but there definitely was some surprise cuts and some fan favorites even for different teams where they're like, wow, why'd they cut him? And You got new regimes coming in. They have a different mentality of how they want to build a roster, and it doesn't align with the fan base. It's that kind of that simple. You might not like it. You might not like what your team did in this offseason. I know Eagles fans are elated with what they did because they were making moves all the time. Another one that was interesting is Eagles cutting Kenyon Green, who they just traded for from the Houston Texans, a guy who is a former first-round pick, was 15th overall in 22, I want to say, maybe 23, but recent, right?
Yep.
A guy who started for the Texans and played well, and then because of the injuries mounting up recently, he gets dealt to the Eagles. Eagles had him in training camp. I didn't hear any real negative stuff coming out of Philly, but apparently he wasn't playing up to par for Philly standards to where he loses a spot, and now he's out there. There's no question in my mind that dude right there is going to be picked up by somebody quickly.
Yeah.
Because even if you bring him in as a backup for depth, you got yourself a bona fide former first rounder that has experience starting.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, that's the thing I've seen, across the wire here. Some guys, again, that they've maybe given up on too early, or just, again, maybe they're just not performing. But then also guys, again, where they're just trying to find that spot on that roster where the name even too, but maybe now just, again, at that part of their career to where they're just not good enough to make some of these other squads. Yeah, I mean, for a couple, even Mecole Hardman, again, is just getting cut again by another team, and who knows if the Chiefs will pick him on again. Here, come on,
might as well. Let's just do it again.
St. Hilaire too, Clyde St. Hilaire too as well, another cut for them, that potentially can make it. Your guy Hunter Renfrow didn't make the team.
I know. I was rooting for him. 29 years old. I was rooting for him. He can cut a rug because. If you watched those practices in Carolina, that dude DBs couldn't stay with him.
Yeah.
And he was still making catches and everything. But who knows? I kind of found it a little weird that they brought him in and how well he was playing. I thought for sure he could have even, removed the seat for Adam Thielen. And maybe he might get cut. Actually, what's interesting about him is there was teams calling to trade for him.
Yep.
His former team, the Minnesota Vikings, were in talks with Carolina to try to get him back to Minnesota, and it just never worked out. They never got to that final stage. But again, Thielen is another guy who's still kind of hanging around.
Yeah. And I think one that was strange to me is Cole Strange. All of a sudden,
but he is strange. Everybody knows that.
It kind of like, it was like one of those things too. Yeah, where when he got drafted, people were like, Patriots were like, what are they doing? Like, who's this guy? But they'll only be in the league a few years now, and just like that. And then new regime, I get it though too. Mike Vrabel and company and stuff. But just to see ya, goodbye. So I mean, a lot of different cuts, different moves. Tommy DeVito got to find another place, so I'm wishing him luck and stuff. But we knew he wasn't going to make the roster too. A lot of these guys you don't expect. I started looking through the list of the guys that when we had our episode about who were going to get cut. A lot of those guys again just all fell through. I got to look at all of them again, but I know Laviska Shenault was one of them too as well.
I had Kenny Pickett getting cut out of the four quarterbacks, but instead he gets traded. Does that count?
Well, we talk about that because again, when you talk about guys that they potentially could be trading away, you said it's got to be Pickett too because he has the most value at least, or something to give to another team.
True.
You're not going to trade away your rookies as you brought them in.
So, Jim, what's interesting, I just want to touch on Cole Strange again.
Sure.
Because he does have a strange name and he's weird, and former first-round pick, by the way, by the Patriots. 3 years ago.
3 years. That's what I'm saying.
And now it's time to go. Now it's your papers are here. We got your replacement. Don't worry. But now he's gone. Now, I mean, again, same thing with Kenyon Green. I kind of expect Cole Strange to land somewhere because even if you do bring him in as, again, depth, which everybody needs, maybe he's an upgrade over someone that you have in your second string, and you pick him up and you got yourself a former starter who has experience, and maybe you don't lose that much if your unfortunate, injury happens to your offensive line. He can kind of insert there.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, 3 years only. I mean, it kind of is a big surprise to you there. And And who knows? You know,
maybe if you
again,
ask Patriots fans, it won't be that surprising.
Yeah, perhaps. But talking about the quarterback situation here with Cleveland again now.
Okay.
You know, again, I'm sure I heard a little bit today because you get to see some of the articles come out. I'm sure tomorrow this is going to be all over television and stuff.
Yes.
By the time this video airs, like right now, this is happening.
We're live, everyone.
But Dillon Gabriel named QB2 behind Joe Flacco. I mean, are we really surprised here? I know a lot of people that, you know, want to claim, you know, that it's, you know, it's prejudice or whatever, things like that, that it's legendary, but that he's the QB2 and it's not Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders actually on the emergency quarterback list. Again, no issues here. Again, Dillon Gabriel played good in the preseason. This is what we got a chance to see. We got to see both players. One just played better in the preseason, and it was more evident in that last game with the way Shedeur was playing to pressure, especially scrambling around, backing the ball up, hanging on to it too long.
A 24-yard loss. A 24-yard loss, bro.
Yes.
You can't keep running backwards. You can't. That is a football no-no for quarterbacks, and he did it. And you know, he's paid the price for it. And yes, he's shown some nice things as a quarterback, but then also bonehead things where you're like, we can't do that. Like, he still needs further development to play at this level. You got to remember, he's coming from a small time conference up to the big boys, up to the penthouse suite, like where they do things a certain way around here. And until he gets kind of acclimated to that level and playing at a much higher level than what he's at right now, I don't think he's by any means. I know there's hysteria out there about Shedeur and like, oh, you know, Shedeur should be the backup and Shedeur should be starting. However, some people think, but he didn't prove enough to even become the backup. And I think that the Browns organization is kind of, you can say it's kind of a mess on how they run that organization. However, they believe in Dillon Gabriel more than Shedeur, and they've seen some things that they're like, we can work with that. Yeah. This guy is more of a NFL ready quarterback than Shedeur is right now. Yeah. That's only just now. It's not saying that Shedeur in a year, in 2 years, all of a sudden he's the best quarterback in that room. So we'll wait and see if that happens. But as of right now, it's just not it. Yeah, and that's how they see it. Again, at least talking, that's how he's talking, like he's like a professional and ready for it. I know a lot of people had a lot of issues with it when he even kind of went back to the podium to not apologize, but change his story about some of us are competitors, some are entertainers. Everybody had a problem. Well, and then he's like, I wish he just never backtracked on it. He's like, I'm talking about you people out there, the journalists. You're the entertainers. Like, no, come on, man. Just, you know what you meant. Just do it, and because shoot your shot, man. Because you did. You beat him out to be the QB2, and show him that you're here for business. Hey, I ain't about the cameras. I ain't about this and this other life. That I'm not trying to be legendary. I'm trying to compete, and I want to do this and do the best I can to help the things. I want to win, and I'm going to win this competition. And that's how I'm taking it. I'm taking it like a fighter. And some people view Shedeur as more of a showsman than a guy who's going to be taking it serious enough to be that next level quarterback, you know, but that's just a small opinion, you know what I mean? And then there's other people that are like, well, Dillon Gabriel seems more businesslike, seems more serious about everything, seems like he's doing everything in his power to become better. And that's not saying that Shedeur isn't, because we've seen him also doing workouts after practice, doing workouts elsewhere with a trainer and whatnot. So this quarterback room is probably the most intriguing room, and it will continue to be this whole season, because everybody's going to wonder, well, if Flacco goes down, are they still going to choose Dillon Gabriel, or are they going to see what Shedeur could do, or are they going to try with both, where like one guy might start one game and then the next, you know, if Flacco's out, they'll just say 4 weeks. And then maybe they'll split and say, okay, Dillon Gabriel's going to have the first 2 games, Shedeur has the next 2, and then Joe Flacco comes back, just to kind of see like, hey, this is what we see. Now everybody, every fan, every other team can see what we see behind closed doors. Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Again,
we appreciate you guys watching up with us here tonight.
Thank you.
Too.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate having Iggy Gilbert on with us, the sports affiliation. So make sure you guys check out that website too as well.
Absolutely.
Fantasy football aficionado, professional gambler. I mean, it's great when you get information from a guy who gambles for a living. So I mean, and he's doing all right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He's not outside living in a tent somewhere.
He knows what he's doing.
So he knows what he's doing. So it's great to get advice from that. So we appreciate having him on. Some of the big news that dropped today too, Joe. Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals have agreed to a reworked contract that will give him a $14 million raise, making his 2025 salary $30 million.
That's right.
This agreement expires though after 2025, which means Hendrickson could potentially be a free agent if he maintains his production that he had for the last 2 years. That could mean a lucrative, career with somebody else, or a big deal somewhere
or a big deal with Cincinnati,
or he's 31. So who knows? But then on the other hand, Cincinnati, seeing it goes, it kind of ends at 25. They can franchise tag him though too. And then maybe it's franchise and work on a deal themselves. But what do you see with this contract and how this kind of leads after where we've been with this whole situation?
Yeah, after the whirlwind of offseason that we've had with Trey Hendrickson in the Bengals, it really, bottom line, it comes down to this. They agreed on a 1-year deal. It's for this year. It's to give Cincinnati extra time to prepare or maybe make some changes going into next offseason to where now we can afford them, or now we've made some changes to where now we can kind of fit the type of contract that you want and keep you here in Cincinnati. Now, again, I think the biggest sticking point for Cincinnati is because, he's above 30 years old. Yeah, there's going to be, at some point, there's going to be a decline. As much as nobody wants to admit it, it's going to happen. His body is going to give away. And so far, he's been lucky. He's been super healthy. He's been active. He's been one of the best pass rushers in the league. But right now, he's under contract. And going forward, this is only putting it off a year for them before they got to reconvene and get a deal done.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, to where he was looking for still more of a job security, long-term type of thing after what he's done. And it seems like for me, Cincinnati's was always not sure. 31 years old, yes, you're producing, but we don't want to buy in and kind of, be on the shit end of the stick on this one. So
that's
what this contract basically falls down to. So now, again, say he does perform again, I still look at this team going, well, all right, well, now he's going to be 32. And then looking at this and oh, all right, what are we going to do? We can tag him and then, figure it out and then walk away again after this one. If we're depending on how this season goes, or again, they could say, because that's what they did. They went and said, hey, listen, let's see what your value is out there. And apparently it wasn't enough. People
nobody could even work on
exactly what
so
they were even
know.
offering. But that's why I think they both kind of to the table here and was kind of like, all right, well, pay me for this year. This is at least I'm good with this. I'm going to be making this one. I think that puts him at top 6. And I think that's where you and I have placed him, right? We said come around with those guys. That's where we kind of saw him here. So they meet where he should be. So it doesn't kill each other on this situation. So then, like you said, we're just going to play this whole thing out. I think next season, we're going to hear the same type of stuff, depending on how it does. If he falls off, then it's pretty much done. But I feel like it's just, it's a preview for this whole thing to go down all next year too.
Honestly, it comes what it is. It is an age factor involved in all of this, and Cincinnati just doesn't want to be left at the table with the check and say, well, he had a down year. We just gave him a 3-year deal. He's getting paid top 5 money in terms of pass rushers, and now guess what? Now he's declined. After this upcoming year, we don't know if that's going to happen. Obviously, we're all just kind of spitting spitballs here and try to decipher what exactly went down with them. But again, this is just kind of like kicking the can down the road. We'll have to revisit this all over again. And I don't think they're going to tag him. If they decide to move on from him after this year, then I think it's going to be a clean break unless they trade him before week 8 hits. That could be another factor, right? Where trade deadline is approaching. He hasn't had the best first half of the season, And then maybe they're like, hey, now let's try to trade him because we don't want to pay him any money either. We don't want to lose him for nothing, but maybe we can get something. So this is still going to be an ongoing saga, if you will, as we get, because if he doesn't get past the trade deadline, and there's no more conversations about new contract or anything, or then maybe he will be locked in. But it's not a very like streamlined situation. It's not like he's 28 and we're like, just pay the dude. What are you waiting for? It's a very murky type of, gray area with his age.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. So again, that leads us to a couple other things to go down. Micah Parsons still out there, doesn't have his deal, but again, I think part of that was they're waiting to see what happened with some of these dominoes that are starting to fall now, dude. Like we talked about it, the season's starting soon, next week. So we're going to see all these things come into play here. More realignment of trades going on. People dropped, cut, picked up, traded around. So interesting times, Joe. And I'm excited. The season's about to start. Let's get it going.
It's about to start. The Micah Parsons thing, I think, is way bigger than people are letting on. Like this is a relationship that's completely tarnished, completely ruined. And Jerry Jones saying some negative things about Micah, and Micah saying some negative things about the Cowboys. And for God's sakes, if anybody hasn't seen, there is a picture out there. Photographer took a picture of Micah Parsons sleeping on the trainer's table during a preseason game. If that doesn't show you a man that's checked out already, that has no interest in signing, then nothing does. So, I don't know what that means going forward, because now as we get into the regular season where he's expected to suit up, expected to play, is he going to hold out? Is he going to take on those fines and just say, screw it, I'll give up my paychecks. I don't really care because I know I'm going to get paid either from somebody else or maybe the Cowboys wake up and pay me now. So tune in for more bizarre and interesting NFL news around the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely. America's team. And there's, you got the spots on Netflix and everything and stuff too.
It's more like, honestly, like it's not even America's team anymore. No. They've turned that into a circus it's America's circus is what it should be called. But thanks everybody. Love everybody that tuned in. Man, I wish you guys were a little bit more lively in the comments, because you guys could have asked some questions for one of our pros in fantasy, where if you need help or anything, we could have asked him tonight. But if you haven't done so already, make sure you head over to YouTube for us. Continue to build our Blitz Nation. Hit that subscribe button at Grumblings Media. Hit the thumbs up. We want to get 100 likes in this thing. We want everybody to get well known around here. We want our show to blow up. We want everyone else's show in Grumblings Media to blow up. We are over 17,000 subscribers, and we need you guys to continue to rise to the top. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll see you in the next one.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.